Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining me. It is the beginning of April 2020, and COVID-19 has everybody staying home and really scared about the future. And it was March 18th when it was the beginning of March when all this kind of started. And on March 18th, that day also happened to be my 60th birthday. And I was at home and I decided I was going to have to make my own healthy birthday cake, which I did. I made for my family and I made it out of quinoa, and the recipe will be coming soon, but it was absolutely delicious. It was something I had never made before. And I thought, well, one of the things that's really fun for me is to make up new recipes and find new recipes. And so I said, well, I'm going to do my own birthday cake because everybody's going to be over here with me. So we're all in this together. So I decided I was going to bake a cake, bake some sourdough bread. And I can't believe I'm 60 years old. How did that even happen? And I don't feel that, but I feel great. But I'm grateful for the journey that life has brought me. I love this age. And I love the wisdom that comes with it because I've had a lot of life experience in my life. I've had a lot of different things that have happened to me. So I have a lot more confidence, a lot more understanding about how things work because I've lived a while. And I love that every time something appears to be really scary in my life and the odds clearly look like they're stacked against me, that slowly things would begin to change, and what appeared to be seemingly harmful to me turned out to be one of my greatest blessings. And that has happened to me so many times, I can't even count the times that that's happened. And it always starts to look like it will turn around even when it appears it's gloomiest. And that has happened to me over and over and over again because I've lived a long time. And I have, I always know that it's going to be okay because I've lived through so many different things. And I don't want to get into them. I've written about them a lot on my blog, but I've gone through some really hard times. And every time the things that looked the worst turned out to be the things that had helped me the most. And I want my website to be a place of hope and healing, and my podcast. And I believe the body knows how to heal itself if it's given what it needs. And I believe in wellness. I really do. That's something that because I've lived that. I've lived in places where I thought my body had betrayed me with sickness and disease. And I've watched as my body has turned around when I gave it the things it needed. And following your guidance from within yourself, I do things very differently. Especially on my website. I don't have a bunch of flashing ads on my website. I can't do it. I tried it for like a month and I literally almost lost my mind because it slowed everything down and there was stuff flashing all over the place. And I really want to be different from everybody else. I don't want to just follow the crowd and do what everybody's doing. And I really hate ads. So I don't want to do that to you. I don't want to put a whole bunch of ads on my website. There just has to be a different way. So, and such is the case with this virus. It's just scaring the bejeepers out of everybody. And I truly believe that this is the time for something good to happen. We're all in this together, and it really appears like sometimes the odds are stacked against us. But this is really a wake-up call, guys. And, in the grocery store, I've noticed that the salad and the produce section were bare. And everybody's trying to stay healthy. And that's a really good thing. I was very excited about that. And if you don't like your story, if you're in fear right now, you can rewrite that to have it the way you want. And I want to tell you a story. About 19, 20 years ago, I was in despair. This is before I started my business. I was looking for hope. I was a new mom. I had my third child. I was 41 years old. I was falling apart. And I was paralyzed with fear. I was sick with diabetes. I had high blood pressure. I was exhausted. I had a new premature baby in my lap that was born early because of me. And I knew I was in trouble. And I desperately needed help. So I begged for help. I wasn't living anymore. I was merely surviving and getting through the day. And one afternoon, I cried out, God, please help me. If you help me, I promise I will help others. And that was the promise I made, and I meant it. And when you're sick and you don't feel good, it's hard to feel spiritual or feel joy or excitement about life. It's just, you're just simply existing and not truly living. And that's what I was doing. And I can remember those days that I would try to comfort myself and say things like, over and over again in the privacy of my own head, the answers will come to me. I know they will. I was not meant to live this way. Help us on the way. They will come. They will come and they will help me. The answers will come. And it's really interesting because I can tell my story now and it doesn't bring up that pain anymore. So now I know that I'm healed because I can tell that because it's a story of hope and not of despair. And the answers did come and they were tailor-made for me. They came in the form and fashion that spoke volumes to me. They came to me in the form of food. And it wasn't just any kind of food that we were accustomed to. They were foods that were fermented, or what I call cultured foods. And they're similar to, foods like yogurt and sauerkraut, but they were teeming with billions of probiotics and good bacteria. And they really changed me in an extraordinary way. And I'm talking about foods like kefir, kombucha, and cultured vegetables. And not only are these foods delicious, but they have also had an extraordinary ability to speak to my cells and to speak to the cells in my body that changed me from the inside out. Here's the deal. You and I are 100 trillion cells of bacteria. And it's who and what we are. And for thousands of years, people ate and consumed these foods. But sadly, we forgot about them. And we became a society that was obsessed with speed and convenience. And when we get sick, our first thought is to reach for the medicine cabinet. We don't try to stop and figure out what the true source of the problem is. And when I started eating cultured foods, every single ailment I had went away. I watched as these foods healed my tiny baby. They healed my older teenage daughter from irritable bowel syndrome and severe food allergies. And I was absolutely astounded as these foods worked miracles on my friends and their children, and things like ulcers and asthma and food allergies and digestive issues were completely going away in all my friends and their children. And what were these foods and how did they change everybody? Well, guys, I've spent almost 2 decades researching them and learning how to make them and teach other people. And they have changed my life. And I am filled with a sense of wellness and joy that I couldn't contain it anymore. It got to a point where it just started to spill out of me. I was no longer struggling with sickness and disease. And I felt so well and so reborn and decades younger than I had felt before that I couldn't help but tell everybody. Because I hoped that it would help other people. And really from that place of wellness that I found, the most wonderful thing happened. My spiritual life grew by leaps and bounds. I connected to a part of my life that dwelt with me in a way I had never known. And I discovered what I've been searching for my entire life, the real me. The part of that spirit that was in me that wanted to give to others and to give back and that felt joy. And my world changed dramatically. My body was trying to get my attention with sickness and disease. And sometimes pain is the only way we can learn and change who and what we are. And it was really interesting to me that my body repaired itself through the foods that I was eating. So I began to listen. I mean, really listen to that still small voice inside of me. It knew that was the way to reach me. And I had forgotten who and what I was. And it made me remember that I was here to feel joy and love and serve people and help one another. And these foods really healed me and they made me well. And honestly, guys, the gratitude that I feel has become a driving force in my life. The force that drives me to teach others how to heal their bodies, how to become the joyful people they were meant to be, and to not live in fear. Because one of the wonderful things about even during this time is that fear is really going mostly on in your mind. Do you know what I mean? And you can attach to that or you cannot attach to that. But sometimes if you don't have the healthy bacteria in your gut that makes those even mood-enhancing hormones that give you that sense of well-being, you can struggle and you can have anxiety, you can have fear-like symptoms because your body doesn't have what it needs to help you make those chemicals within your body that allow you to feel calm. When I found these foods, I went from lying on the couch to living life like never before. And it's a journey I took, and I'm so thankful for the pain that led me here to you guys, to help you guys. It is really my strong desire that I help you because I know what that's like. I know what being afraid and not feeling well is like. And I didn't think that this kind of life that I'm living now was possible. But almost 20 years later, it has been the greatest journey of my life. And I am so thankful for all the struggles that brought me here. I get hundreds of emails every week, and contained within all those emails are often questions and people yearning for wellness. But almost without exception, many of them contain the answers that they're seeking from me. They'll say, do you think I should do this? I kind of think I should do that. But I'm kind of being led to this. And honestly, they're just looking for reassurance that they're on the right path. And you guys are so much wiser than you know. You're getting the answers. You just need somebody to tell you that, yeah, that's it. That's what you should do. And we all get that. We all get guidance that for the questions that we have and the things that we're looking for to create wellness. And often you guys already have the answers and you just need me to say, yep, you got it. So I have a lot of things on my website to help you if you're looking for things to do. I am giving away I have a membership site, a Body Pro membership site, and every month I give away free ebooks that have just tons of recipes in them on different topics. And I try to do that for my members every week. But during this time, I'm going to be giving away my most popular ebook that has 50 recipes in it. And it's called Cultured Food for What Ails You. And I'm going to give it to everybody. And guys, there is a lot of information in it. It's got all these different health topics and different cultured foods that you can have that will help those ailments that you're experiencing. And you can go to my website. You'll see it and I'll put it in the link description below. But you can go to my website at culturedfoodlife.com and see that ebook on there so that you can get that too, or just click on the link description and go up below. But it is a huge ebook. It has a ton of recipes. And on every recipe, it talks about why these foods work to help with that ailment. It would really help you. And I'm doing it during the time that everybody's isolated, just as a help for everybody, for people who aren't members. I wanted to give out something to everybody to help them. And it'll keep you busy because there's a lot of information in there. So I am praying and believing for an epidemic of wellness. The virus cannot last long. They always fade away. But in the meantime, let's get you healthy and confident in your body's ability to heal you. I want you to start to believe in that. The cells and bacteria of your body are constantly, every day, working on your behalf to keep you well. And they don't get enough credit, and that's for sure. And I have a lot of health and wellness topics on my site, and I'm going to link that in the description below. You can click on that link, and I think I have like 160, maybe even 180, I can't remember, health topics on different things that you could read that could really help you. And I have recipes on there. And I also have the Cultured Food for What Ails You ebook that for everybody, giving that to everybody. So sure you click on that and get that because that's not available all the time. But I wanted to give something to help you. And don't be afraid. We're all in this together. This will too pass. And we can win the fight if we just stay strong. I love your guts, quite literally. And I want you to embrace those little microbes that live within you that are strengthening your immune system, that are trying to boost all those helpers inside of you that fight pathogens, that fight viruses, that fight these things. And the more healthy bacteria you have in the gut, the more helpers you have in your ability to fight this kind of virus. So build up your immune system with cultured foods, because the more probiotics you eat, the more that army inside of you will grow, which will alert your T cell helpers to kill and destroy those pathogens that want to make you a host. And I talk quite about that extensively in some of my other podcasts and on my website and on my health topics and in the Cultured Food for What Ails You ebook. So check it out. I hope it'll give you something to do. And let's use this time to help you to understand how your body works and how you can help it to stay strong and to be healthy. I'm going to put my story video on here, which is, It's something I recorded, and it tells my story. It tells the story I kind of told earlier in the broadcast, but in a little bit more detailed way, and how I was able to find wellness when I really was in despair. And I hope it will help you. I hope it will encourage you. And I hope it will help you to remember that this is going to pass and that your body knows how to heal you. It's designed to do that. And you're the captain of your ship, so you have to give it what it needs. And I've lived through that many times. And I now have a lot more confidence in my body's ability to heal like never before. And that just comes partly from living life a long time. So I love you guys. I hope that this will help you. I hope it will encourage you. And let's use this time to get you healthy and to give you some confidence in how your body works and how you can stay strong. We will see you next week. And I appreciate it, and I really do love your guts, quite literally. It was 2001, and I was 41 years old, and I found myself pregnant with my third child. I was pretty surprised by this. I had 2 children already, 14 and 16, and I was not prepared to be pregnant again because I had pretty rough pregnancies. They were hard on me, and I understand now why that was, but back then I just always dreaded being pregnant because I really suffered during my pregnancies. And I had to go to the doctor. She was due in about 7.5 weeks. And there's something that I have done for years. I've collected quotes. I place them on my walls, I carry them in my purse, I put them on my computer. Things that have meaning to me, things that give me hope and inspiration, and I carry them with me. And it was around that time that I found a quote by Joseph Campbell that said, "Sometimes you have to go down into the abyss to find life's little treasures. Where you stumble, there's your treasure." And I was getting ready to go into the abyss. I just didn't know it yet. I was laying in bed with my husband one night, and it was the night before I had a doctor's appointment. And I told him that I thought something was really, really wrong. Things felt really off to me, just like something bad was happening. I couldn't really explain it, but when I went to the doctor the next day, they immediately sent me over to the hospital. And on the way to the hospital, that same feeling came back over me, and it was really bad. It was scaring me, didn't feel right, and I started to cry. And I was afraid that something bad was getting ready to happen. I couldn't explain it, but it felt that things were not going well. And it was very long after I had felt probably the most intense part of that emotion that suddenly this wave of comfort just came over me. Almost as if somebody had put a warm blanket around me and told me that it was going to be okay. So when I got to the hospital, they did some tests, and within a few minutes, 2 nurses and an anesthesiologist come rushing into the room and asked me how long it would take my husband to get there, and they wanted to do an emergency C-section in 20 minutes. And I just panicked. I mean, everybody knows that a baby born 7.5 weeks early stays in the hospital for weeks in neonatal wards and struggles. And I just was crumbling. I said, "You can't take my baby this early. She's not ready. She will suffer." And right at that moment, the anesthesiologist came over, sat in my bed, looked me straight in the eye and said, "Donna, your liver is shutting down. This is the solution. This is the only solution to save you and the baby. We don't have options here. This is the answer." I'm looking at a total stranger, and I have to trust this person. And I felt myself let go because I couldn't do anything. I didn't have any more control. It was out of my control. I was going down into the abyss whether I liked it or not. And I had to put my life in the hands of this really kind stranger. They delivered her 25, 30 minutes later. I saw her for 10 seconds, and they rushed her to the neonatal ward, where they kept her alive all night by standing by her side and watching her, doing the wondrous things that some of these nurses and doctors did in the hospital. But they sedated me in a very severe way because my blood pressure was so high and I had so many things going on. So I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't go see my baby. I couldn't even sit up. I couldn't get in a wheelchair, and I was really having a hard time. And the nurses kept coming into my room and saying, "We've got to get your blood pressure down, Donna. It should have gone down after we delivered the baby." And I finally said to them, "I have delivered this new baby, and she doesn't know she has a mother. I'm doors away from her. She's down the hall. She doesn't know that I love her. She's suffering, I'm suffering, and I can't get to her. So how can my blood pressure go down? You've got to find a way to let me to see my baby. I haven't seen her. I saw her for 10 seconds. I said, you either got to drop my medication or you got to find a way to get me to her." And I said, "I promise you my blood pressure will come down." So that nurse waited till about 2:30 in the morning when the hospital corridors were a little quiet. People had gone home, and she wheeled my entire bed into that neonatal ward. And there I saw my little 4-pound Holly. And they had put IVs in her head because her veins had collapsed because they were so little and so tiny. And they told me they had to sedate her because she was so upset. And they don't like to sedate newborns like that because it's not good for them. They're fragile, but they had to because she was so upset that she was using all her energy, which she needed because she didn't have enough fat on her to protect herself. So she was laying there pretty limp and her eyes were covered and they had tubes in her. And I will never forget that moment. And the despair that I felt turned to determination. And I determined in that moment, looking at that baby that was my baby, that I would climb any mountain. I would do anything to get that baby home and to give her the life that she deserved. I did not want her to suffer. And my body was struggling, but it was not done yet. They wheeled me back to my room and my blood pressure started dropping within the hour. And the next morning, they lowered my dosage of medication because it had dropped enough that I could get out of bed and go see my baby. And then this whole journey of understanding what happens when you have a premature infant. When babies are born that early, they don't get the mom's immunities. They get them the last 6 weeks in the womb, and she was born too early. So she didn't know how to eat, she didn't know how to suck, she didn't know any of these things. And the way that you get a baby home is they have to take all of their meals from you. They have to take bottles or you have to nurse. But she didn't know how to do any of that, and so I had to teach her. And it was a struggle. She was drinking about 2 ounces of milk that would take me an hour to get down her. And I had to do it every 2 hours. And if I didn't do it, the nurses would tube feed her, which meant she couldn't go home. I had to do this for so many days. And after I had done it, I can't even remember how many days I had to do it for, then I could take her home. That basically I had to prove that she could survive on her own. And so I didn't sleep. I was just around the clock. My body just kicked myself into overdrive. And my husband helped feed her too, and we took turns, and I just did it. I don't even know how I did it. Some people call it instincts, mother's instinct. I just call it love. I was getting that baby home, it didn't matter. And in 2 weeks, I got her home. They told me 3 to 4 weeks, and I got it in 2 weeks. And we started on nursing and feedings routines were basically for 8 months. I just fed Holly, that's all I did. I kept everybody away. Little colds, little flus that normal kids get can really damage preemies because they don't have the immune system that regular babies have. And so, colds can damage their lungs, cause problems that are permanent. So I basically lived in this little bubble where all I did was feed my little girl. And things were going up and down, and things were going up pretty good. And then at about 10 months, Holly decided, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, that she wasn't going to nurse anymore. That she just didn't want to do it. She wanted bottles. She didn't want to do any of these things that were protecting her, and I had to find alternatives to feed her. And that wasn't easy. And at the same time, my diabetes came flying back, which I had had during my pregnancy. And when you have diabetes, it makes your blood just feel thick and sludgy. Blood should flow through the veins, but when you get diabetes, it almost like caramelizes and you feel exhausted and tired, and you don't live normally like you should because you don't feel good. So one afternoon, sitting in my living room, I prayed that I would find the wisdom to help my family, help myself, because I wanted to live. I had a baby to raise, and I was 41 years old. She was going to be, when she was 18, I was going to be 60. And I wanted to live a long life and enjoy her, and I wasn't living anymore. I was depressed. I was really just felt bad. I didn't feel good because I had high blood pressure again, diabetes, and I was struggling. So one afternoon, it wasn't too long after I prayed that I was in a health food store. And I grabbed 2 books off a shelf and sat down to read them. And one of the books opened to a page on kefir. And I had never heard of kefir. I didn't know what it was, but I was kind of intrigued, so I read about it. And then I picked up the other book and was flipping through it, and it too stopped to a page on kefir. And right at that very moment, a store employee walked by and said, "That is the most important book you will ever read. You should pay attention." And then he just walked away. And that book was Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon, and it changed my life. I took both of those books home. I went to the corner of the store and found kefir and started giving this to Holly in her bottles, and I started to drink it too. And then I began to make it. And it was about 3 to 4 weeks later that my husband walked into the living room holding Holly one day and said, "Donna, she's gained 4 pounds. And she had stopped spitting up all the time. She was sleeping through the night, and there was this color in her cheeks that I had never seen before. And I was really surprised that she would gain that much weight and look the way she did. But from that day to this day, Holly has never ever been to the doctor because she was sick. She quickly became the healthiest person in our entire family, very quickly. And it was really not too long after that one day I was standing in my kitchen looking out the window. I think I was washing dishes. And suddenly I found myself in the front yard filling up all my bird feeders. And that moment, it was as if my whole world shifted. And the grass was greener. And honestly, that day, those birds, I know they were singing sweeter because I felt so good. I don't believe I've ever felt what I felt that day prior to that. It was a sense of well-being. It was a sense of joy. It felt so good to me, and I didn't know what had happened to me. My blood sugars had normalized. My blood pressure was normal. And this joy came over me. And I found another quote by Joseph Campbell that said, "Find a place where there's joy, and the joy will burn out the pain." And that is true, because that happened to me. I became a woman on a mission to see what had happened to me. I didn't know what had happened to Holly and me, but this strange drink called kefir had changed us so dramatically, and I was going to find out what it was all about. So I began researching every night, searching through papers and trying to find what had happened to us. And here's what I discovered: that you and I are 10 trillion cells of bacteria. More than cells in the body, we are bacteria. And only 1% is harmful that they know of, is bad, and the rest is good or harmless bacteria. It lives inside of us. It does things that you can't even imagine that it does. It helps us digest our food. It protects us and builds up our immune system. It talks to our cells. It repairs the damage to our DNA. It makes serotonin in the gut and sends it straight to our brain to make these chemicals that feel so good. And it did so many things that I couldn't believe the processes that were happening within me and Holly just by drinking this kefir. Honestly, I wanted to know why it was doing these things. So I have journals that I keep by my bed, and I write questions in them, and then I leave the questions alone and wait for the answers to come, and they always come for me. And I wrote this one particular day, "Why is kefir lowering my blood pressure?" Because every time I went off of it, it went right back up. And I wanted to know why. And it wasn't too long after I had written that question that I found this book called Bacteria for Breakfast, which is a super intense book, but I loved it. And in the back of it, it had studies, and it said that fermented milk products worked on an enzyme in the stomach, just like ACE inhibitor drugs, to lower blood pressure naturally. And this is what was happening to me, because when I went off of it, it stopped working. And so I started researching that, and I discovered what kefir was and the things that it could do. And of all the things that happened to me, I couldn't believe that the answers that I was seeking, the wellness that I wanted for my family, came to me in the form of food. And these cultures, these living cultures that would sit on my counter and transform my food, infuse my food with good bacteria that made my food safe, and made them so safe that bad pathogens couldn't get in, would preserve the foods, and then when I would eat them, they would preserve me. They would change me, and they were doing the work, and I was receiving the benefits. And they had been around for thousands of years. I just didn't know about them. And each step along the way, each journey, every food that I found had a new story and a new thing that it did. And I was so shocked and amazed that something so simple as food could change me so dramatically. My daughter Macy, who had terrible problems with her stomach and was allergic to everything, her stomach healed. She lost all of those allergies. She can eat anything now. And I saw this in my friends. I saw some of my friends not need the asthma medication they were taking. Or so many men that I had met whose wives I had taught how to make kefir were stopped taking their acids and their special medication to get rid of heartburn. And constipation was going away, and ulcers were going away, and people's blood sugars were lowering. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And what shocked me was that I didn't know it could do all these things. And every time I learned about a new cultured food, new things would surface, and I would learn about them too. It was exciting to me that something so simple, these little living microorganisms that you place in your food, would reproduce themselves so I could give them to my friends. They would last my lifetime, and they cost pennies to make. I couldn't ask for more than that. I couldn't ask for something that had been something that was more effective for me. So I went from laying on the couch and really struggling and not having much joy to feeling so happy all the time that I wound up having a website to tell others, writing a cookbook, building a blog, and then now I'm doing videos. Who does that? People do that when they feel good, because when you feel good, you do good. And this is the thing that happened to me. I couldn't stop it. It just spills out of you. That's what joy does. You can't control it. You want to tell people and help them on their journeys because you've been there. You know what the despair feels like. And these are the things that have happened to me that have really caused me to do the things that I'm doing right now. You have given me the reasons to make videos and to write cookbooks, you inspire me to do these things because I want to help you. Because life is not worth living the way I was living. It has such meaning and such joy every day when you feel good. You can change the world. And I thought maybe I could help somebody along the way because I receive so much help. It has made all the difference in my life, and it means so much to me to share with others what has changed my life. So I hope that you'll stay tuned and that I can help you on this journey. There's something that I have a philosophy that I live by, and that is that if you believe in something and you love it and you've lived it and you know that it has changed your life, other people who are seeking what you're offering will find you, and I'll be here to welcome them. You will too. We can do it together. I want you to feel not only the wellness that I feel, but the joy I feel, because life really is a wonderful journey.